Greetings. My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks Sr., your host, and this is Lake County Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very fortunate to have with us Dr. Marvell McCain Parker. She's the wife of Pastor Wheeler Parker Jr., the cousin of the late Emmett Till. Greetings, Mrs. Parker.
Greetings to you.
We're very happy that you've taken time for your busy schedule to be with us on Lake County Community Forum. We met your husband, and he was a speaker, a keynote speaker, as a matter of fact, at the National Association of University Women, North Shore, Illinois branch, 25th Annual Salute to African American Educators Luncheon. And you introduced him. And after hearing you introduce him, I said, well, maybe you should be a host, a guest on the program in the future. And so he introduced me to you, and you were readily and to accept the challenge. And here we are. I think, first of all, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your personal and professional background.
Well, my husband and I married in 1967, and he moved me to Summit, Illinois.
Okay.
I worked for about 8 years at a company called A.O. Smith, which was located in the city of Chicago. In 1984, I started my own business. We purchased a commercial building, and we put our businesses in the building. His was Esquire Barbershop, and mine was Vell's Travel Agency. So for 30 years, I operated my own travel agency. We traveled extensively and enjoyed traveling. In 1992, I began my community mobilization career, and we began to mobilize the community, the influx of drugs, and we could see that the community was going in the wrong direction. We mobilized and started our war against drugs and gangs, and that evolved into a nonprofit organization that we named the Summit Community Taskforce. It's a multi-purpose human service agency. And we began to offer alternative activities for our youth and programs, parent classes, and as a result of work that I community, the spotlight being on my activities, when our new mayor, Mayor Joe Streldrick, was elected to office in 1997, he offered me the position of Director of Community Development. So that began my career of working for not just a section of the community, but the entire community, the entire village of Summit. And in that position, I became grant writer, and I was able to write a grant and get funded. We built a fire station, received CDBG funding to build a new fire station in 1998, completed in 2000. And I also wrote a grant for our community organization, a federal grant request for construction of a community center. And we were able to get that funded. So we have our neighborhood organization, we own our own community center. And we dedicated the center to the memory of Emmett Lewis Till. So it's called the Till Center. And in 2011, I retired from that position as Director of Community Development. My final project was that of senior housing. I was able to partner with a Community Development Corp, Turnstone Development, Cook County, and the Village of Summit. And we were able to build a 60-unit senior housing development. We went about it in a way where we were able to eliminate our public housing, which was the center and the seat of a lot of crime and undesirable activity. So we were able to get permission from HUD to demolish our public housing, and we replaced it with affordable senior housing. So we have a beautiful neighborhood senior building. I retired from that position in 2011. And in 2012, the mayor appointed me to a vacancy on the Board of Trustees after the death of Mr. Dick Aldrich. 2013, I was elected to the position, and I currently serve as a member of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Summit and I chair the finance committee. And I am now the senior trustee on the board. So now we're working to try and balance a budget
Fantastic.
after the COVID and all of our deficits as it relates to revenue. We're challenged now. We're trying to balance a budget and save everybody's job.
Dr. Parker, tell us, I had your husband talk with the group about the late Emmett Till and how he got involved. But I'd like for you to tell us the work you're doing to preserve the memory of the late Emmett Till.
Well, currently I'm with the National Trust, submitted an application to the National Trust for funding to preserve the memory of Emmett Till. The funeral of Emmett Till in 1955 was held at Roberts Temple Church of God in Christ. And that church has now received the designation from the city of Chicago as a city of Chicago landmark. And my husband and I, in our pursuit to preserve the legacy of Emmett Till, we're trying to get national landmark status for that church. So my application submitted in February was to the National Trust, and we were awarded, Roberts Temple was awarded the designation of one of the 11 most endangered civil rights historic sites. And we're now working with the National Trust to pursue the designation of national landmark status. We have launched a website, and we've already received over $20,000 in donations just in September when the designation was announced. And our pursuit is to renovate and restore Roberts Temple to its original 1955 appearance.
Now, the event that took place in 1955 was, your husband called it the spark of the civil rights movement. Now, there were two movements in 1955. That was Rosa Parks. That was a movement too. So two movements in the same year. But tell us about the background of Emmett Till for the people that listening audience that don't know.
Well, the wording of that is that the murder of Emmett Till was the catalyst that sparked the civil rights movement, and it's been given that title because Rosa Parks stated that the day she was demanded to give up her seat, she was motivated to not give up her seat because she thought about the recent murder and lynching of Emmett Till. So that's what connects Emmett to being the spark, that the catalyst of the civil rights movement.
It's amazing about Rosa Parks. People may not know, but she was sitting in an all-colored section,
Yes.
and she was asked to give up her seat to a white male. But we had always thought that.
I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Right. So I thought we would bring that out,
Right.
Yeah. But she did decide, you said, that Emmett Till was really the spark.
Those are her words. Yes.
Uh-huh.
That she thought about the lynching and the murder of Emmett Till, and that motivated her to not give up her seat. As you stated, she was in the Negro section, but because of the overcrowdedness of the bus, this white gentleman needed a seat, and she was instructed to get up and give her seat to a white man. She refused, and we know what happened after that.
Right.
Bus boycott and the civil rights movement was birthed.
Right. Tell us about the late mother of Emmett Till. That was Miss Mosley. Was that her name?
Mamie Till Mobley. At her death, yes, she was married 3 times, but at the time of Emmett's murder, she was Mamie Bradley. She went on to become Mamie Mobley. She was divorced from Mr. Till. Mamie went on to went back to college and became a school teacher, and of course, an activist and motivational speaker. She worked with children, and she taught them to be. She taught them about her son and about Dr. King, and they recited and memorized Dr. King's speeches. They also became motivational speakers, the students that she mentored.
Right. It was quite emotional for her. She wanted the world to know what happened to her son because she had an open casket for, I think, Jet magazine had a full page of story so that everybody could see his son in the casket and how his face was mutilated.
You know, by her having an open casket and allowing the world to see
Uh-huh.
what the world was, the face of racism, the ugly face of racism. And she had the casket open, and because of that bravery of her, because most people would not have wanted, the world to see, or anybody to see, the mutilated body of her son. Most of the time when bodies are in very poor condition, it's a closed casket. But she insisted that the casket be open because she wanted the world to see the ugly face of racism and hatred.
Mm-hmm. Your husband was, of course, he'll tell his story when I interview him, it's a real challenge for him.
It is.
And I'm sure that it must have had a great effect upon you too, right? Because he was involved.
I didn't know him at the time. When I met my husband in 1966, it was 11 years later. But we found out in meeting each other that our families were both from the same part of Mississippi, which is Greenwood. Money is just across the levee. And so our families knew each other in Mississippi, but he and I didn't know each other in Illinois, but we met in Illinois. But everybody was touched and knew about the story of Emmett Till. I was actually 9 years old when it happened.
Okay.
But my father did take us down to Robert's Temple to view the body, but the crowd was so magnanimous, we were not able to get in. And as children, we were actually afraid of the magazine that showed the picture of Emmett. We were afraid.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Boy, this is really was really you mentioned Greenwood, Mississippi, but I'm your neighbor. I was born in Lexington.
In Lexington.
Mississippi.
Lexington. Yeah, my grandmother was from Lexington, and my grandfather, who, of course, lived on the plantation, the McCain plantation, was from the Teague, Mississippi, which is we wouldn't call it a suburb, but it's the country road, down the country road from Greenwood.
Right. Now, you've been very active in church, but tell us some more about your church positions that you held.
Well, I'm a third generation member of the Church of God in Christ. My grandmother was a district missionary, so we were raised in church. My mother was a musician. She played the guitar. And when she was carrying her babies, she has 3 daughters, she put a pillow between her stomach and the guitar. So I tell them, I heard "Yes, Lord" in the womb. So we were always Sunday school, church, Tuesday night, Friday night, all of our life. Third generation members of the Church of God in Christ.
Okay. And your husband always talked about your duties as an elected official. So you were quite active then in politics, I would say. Right?
Here in Summit, yeah.
Right. And that was elected or appointed?
Initially, I filled the vacancy of a deceased trustee for a year, and then in 2013, I was elected to the position, and again in 2017. And I just signed my papers to be on the ballot in 2021. I'll be running again for the position.
This is fair. Now the activity of women in politics. Do you have a great deal of women participating?
We have At this time, we have six trustees and three are females.
Oh,
So the board is very diversified. We have two African Americans, of course, of which I'm one, two Hispanics, and of course two whites. So the board represents the diverse.
okay. You also mentioned that you guys are world travelers. You travel quite a bit.
Well, travel sell destinations you need to visit them. We traveled extensively before I opened my travel agency. We'd been to Europe and we'd been to Israel, Africa, Egypt, and so once I became a travel agent, we were able to I had a chance to see the islands and most of the tourist attractions in the United States.
Okay, okay. Now, what is your ultimate goal as a community activist?
Well, the goals that I've set, basically I've achieved. Now I'm just working as chairman of the finance committee, which is trying to oversee the resources and the funds and help manage the funds for the village. We just became home rule about 4 years ago. We became home rule, and of course, that means that we have the power to tax, and so you're trying to be careful with that. We're now in a dilemma and in a throes of determining whether or not we will allow a cannabis facility to be located in our community. And it was my request that we allow the residents to make that decision, not just the 6 board members. So in our village newsletter, our most recent village newsletter, we put a questionnaire to be torn and returned to the village whether or not the residents would want to see cannabis in the community or not. And based on the returns from the questionnaire, my vote will be to follow the dictates of the residents. They want it, okay. If they don't, I will vote no. Because what they've done, we had already legalized medical, because once the state of Illinois approved it, we had to approve the sale of medical marijuana. But now that the state has legalized recreational marijuana, the new ordinance would call it a cannabis establishment. And a cannabis establishment would be able to sell medical or medicinal and recreational. And of course, you've seen the response where there are facilities that sell recreational marijuana. You've seen the response to people coming and standing in line, and the activity that will probably come into the village. And I just think it's something that the residents need to be aware of, and they make that decision.
How has the virus affected that community as a whole?
Well, the virus, we're only 10,600 people, but in a memo that I received from the mayor, our community is at 24%. We've had about 780 cases since the onset, and that's a large number for a community of our size. So of course, we went into a complete shutdown in March, and our employees, our police department and fire department are considered essential services, but our office and our public works were not shut down, but our workers were only working 1 day a week. The facility was operable 1 day a week. Each employee worked. However, we paid each employee for 40 hours. And so with the reduced revenue, because we get a nice chunk from the Des Plaines casino every year. Since its opening, we've received each year over $500,000. So with the casino being shut down and restaurants, our revenue has been greatly challenged. And so right now we're working on trying to save everybody's job, and we've asked everybody to tighten their belt and give something back until we can ride this out, because we're now going back into a reduced workforce by the mandate that was passed as of this morning, yesterday at 6 a.m. We're going back to a reduced workforce, just essential workers.
For those that don't know, give us approximately information about Summit. Where are you located?
The Village of Summit is on the border of Chicago. Harlem Avenue is the east boundary of Summit, and actually northbound Harlem is Chicago. Southbound Harlem is Summit. So that it shows you we're really on the border.
Okay.
We're on the border of Summit, and we go all the way to the Des Plaines River Railroad track. So we are really kind of a dead end town. Westbound, we're bounded by the west on I-55. Our south is once again I-55 Stevens, because that Summit is where it curves from going south to going east. And our north boundary is 64th Street.
Right. Do you have an active NAACP in Summit?
No, we do not. Our African-American population teeters on being 1,000 people. So you can see we're but 1%, 10% of the population. And has always been at just about at that number, 10%. Right. Of course, the Hispanics have, in population, they've taken over the last 20 years since I first became a village employee. Our Hispanic population, once they were Americanized and registered to vote, they now are the controlling vote.
Amazing.
It is. And our mayor is Hispanic.
Oh, okay. You have some historical people. Do you remember Gus Savage?
I do remember. I remember.
Yeah, tell us about the role that he played in the civil rights. I mean, Emmett Till's.
I don't recall in studying the incidents during that time. I don't recall his name.
Okay, Gus Savage. He was he wrote Harold Washington, and it got him to approve the a memorial for Emmett Till.
What, the city of Chicago landmark?
Right. He goes way back, but that's before your time, though.
Yeah.
But he was very active in the in the city of Chicago to get that done. Well, tell us about the reaction now. Are people still excited about the Emmett Till movement now, or just are they relaxed about it now?
Well, with the current events and the birth of Black Lives Matter,
okay,
the name of Emmett Till almost leads the roster of, and I shouldn't say celebrated, but a memorialized African-American youth that died at the hands of racial injustice. We have several projects, not in the state of Illinois, primarily in Mississippi, that are memorialized the memory of Emmett Till. My husband and I just signed an agreement to support the Children's Museum out of Indianapolis, Indiana. They are proposing to do a traveling exhibit telling the story of Emmett Till. And they plan to feature it at 5 museums all over the country, starting in, they're going to start in Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Indianapolis, Washington, D.C., and end in Chicago at the DuSable Museum. And we have signed on as consultants because we want to make sure, and they want to make sure, that the narrative of the story is told correct. We also have a project in Mississippi. We've solicited funding from the Mellon Foundation to build a memorial at the site, the river site, where the body was taken from the river. we're working with the National Trust because we're trying, and when I say we, I'm speaking of the Emmett Till Commission, which is a group out of Tallahatchie County, Mississippi, which is primarily white people who are helping to commemorate the memory of Emmett Till, and they're trying to get the National Park Service to dedicate a park in Mississippi to the memory of Emmett Till.
Fantastic. Now, if the late Emmett Till was, what is a teenager?
He was 14.
14 years old.
14 years
And
old.
and your husband traveled with him, I guess, going on vacation, I guess, in Mississippi, right?
Well, yes, my husband's grandfather came to Chicago for a funeral, and once he was getting ready to go back home, he decided that he'd take his grandson with him, which is my husband. And Emmett, who was my husband, he was the sidekick because he's 2 years younger.
Okay.
When he heard Wheeler was going, he entreated his mother to allow him to go with Wheeler to Mississippi. They were very reluctant to let him go, knowing that he was a Chicago kid who may not understand the do's and the don'ts of Mississippi. She tried to school him, but if you haven't lived it, you can't really, it's hard to perceive the kind of person you have to become, or you had to be in 1955 if you went to Mississippi. You went through a metamorphosis.
Right, right. It was just ordained that you meet your husband, because it's my understanding that when the Klan came in the home, they bypassed your husband and went to Emmett Till. That's the one they wanted.
Bedrooms, and when they came in, the first bedroom was my husband's grandfather.
Okay.
They were looking for the fat boy. Emmett was short and stocky. My husband's always been tall and slim. So when they looked at him, physically he didn't fit the description. They looked at him, shined a flashlight in his face and looked at him, and then they went on to the second, and then Emmett was in the very last bedroom.
Right. Now, your doctor's training is in what field?
Divinity.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we could do a whole story on tell us about women in the ministry. You stepped into that one.
I stepped into that one.
Women in the ministry.
Women in ministry. Well, the church has definitely changed its views. Our church, Church of God in Christ, has certainly changed its views on women in ministry. However, there's a role for females in ministry and always has been. It doesn't have to mimic that of the male.
Okay.
The caring ministries are genderless, which is feeding the sick, clothing the hungry, caring for children. I've taught Sunday school for over 50 years. I have no biological children, but I have far more children than I could have ever been the biological mother of, that I have nurtured and parented.
Okay.
And I reap the benefits of the seeds that I've sown in the young people who have come through our church and through my ministry. I have, though, been promoted throughout the years through the church in positions that of honor. And I have, in 2018, I was appointed to the position of assistant supervisor of the women's department of our 5th jurisdiction, West Illinois. And supervisor is the highest position you can attain in the Church of God in Christ. So I have been appointed and consecrated by our presiding Bishop Charles E. Blake as assistant supervisor.
Well, I want to thank you very much for literally taking time for your busy schedule to be with us on the Lake County Community Forum. You are a person that Lake County should know. Not only Lake County, but the whole world should know of the work that you're doing. And I want to thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Dr. Wadell McCain Parker. She's the wife of Pastor Wheeler Parker Jr., the cousin of the late Emmett Till. And we want to thank you for taking time to viewing the program again on Lake County Community Forum. My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks Sr., your host.